This weekend, Bumblebee hits theaters. That means today we're going to stop and rank all 6 live-action Transformers movies from the worst to the best. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Sean Chandler, and I started this channel essentially because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place and consider clicking that subscribe button. And with that in mind, go ahead and join us down in the comment section. Share your ranking of the Transformers movies. Which ones you love, which ones you hate, which ones are abominations. I'd love to hear your take on it. One final thing, I didn't include the 80s animated film in my list. It just felt a little bit too much like one of these is not like the other, and I didn't know how to compare it to the other films. If you want to throw it into your list, absolutely do that. Let's have a conversation about it, and I'll try and chime in a little bit on that. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place is Transformers: Age of Extinction. Now, I think the actual setup and premise of this film is kind of interesting. The idea that humans are hunting down the Transformers, and there's a group that's tearing them apart, dissecting and studying their technology, and then building their own Transformer out of it. That's a pretty cool idea, especially the idea that it would then turn into Megatron. All that works for me. Unfortunately, the actual execution of this idea is dreadful. And maybe that could be some fun if you enjoyed the characters in this movie, but besides Mark Wahlberg playing Mark Wahlberg, these characters are horrendous. There's this plot line about the boyfriend that's unbelievably creepy at best. Like, if you have to write an explanation into your script as to why the relationship between the daughter and the boyfriend isn't statutory rape, there's a problem with your script. And if you play the statutory rape plotline for laughs, there's a problem with you. But the problem with the boyfriend doesn't even end there. He's written to be a total douchebag. There's an actual sequence in the movie where the daughter's kidnapped and he says to the dad, "I'm not here to save your daughter. You're here to help me save my girlfriend." Are you kidding me? And if that's not bad enough, the movie, while it has tons of plot lines, doesn't really have a story or any storytelling going on here. It's just these characters passively going along on the ride that is the movie. There's a bunch of events that happen in chronological sequence, but it's not really a story. Even as there's twists and turns, it's just new information being revealed. It's not mysteries, there's not tension, there's not something you're trying to overcome. It's just stuff happening until you get to the end of the movie, and then there's a speech from Optimus Prime and he takes off. Oh yeah, and out of nowhere, the Dinobots show up in the third act of the film for a little bit. But overall, this is a movie that to me is just exhausting. And the sad thing about this, the parts in Texas in this movie were shot 10 minutes that way. It was shot right near where I live. And it's just dreadful. Coming in 5th place is Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. This is the movie where Michael Bay's kind of worst aspects started to come to the forefront. The starting one here is just his juvenile sense of humor. In the first 13 minutes of the movie, there's 3 different dog humping jokes. As you move into the third act of the film, there's this bit.
I am directly below the enemy scrotum.
And the lack of maturity doesn't end there. It also shows up in the characters. In the first film, the characters are kind of over the top, but they were fun, and there was a certain relatability inside of Sam's family. All of that is replaced here with just ridiculousness, where Sam's mom is eating pot brownies, tackling people. All the scenarios are just insanely over the top with his roommate and where everything happens. It's all just played for absolute base level, immature, gut level reactions and humor out of people, and none of it works. The movie also seems to be making up the rules as it goes along. Suddenly there's this Decepticon that looks like a human that behaves like Natasha Henstridge's character out of the Species franchise, where she's making out with Sam before she tries to kill him. Just a bunch of really odd stuff, and even the plot is just riddled with plot holes and no explanation for how characters are getting in different places. And that's the way the whole movie flows. There's no kind of pacing to it. There's no logic to the storytelling. There's no rules to any of it. It's just Transformers stuff thrown up on the screen with dumb Michael Bay jokes thrown constantly at you. What brings brings this one up for the bottom for me is that I just enjoy Sam and Megan Fox and these characters a little bit more than those in Age of Extinction. In fourth place is Transformers: The Last Night. Well, this is a ludicrous movie. And what I mean by that is before it came out, they announced that they had done like this brainstorming weekend where they took off a bunch of top-level TV and movie screenwriters off for a weekend to brainstorm a bunch of ideas for Transformers movies, and they came back from it saying that they had like 16 movies planned. Well, watching this movie, it feels a little bit like they took all 16 of those movies and tried to cram it into this one film. It's a movie about Optimus Prime trying to meet his creator. It's a movie about Optimus Prime turning evil. It's about Transformers flooding the Earth. It's about parts of the United States turning post-apocalyptic. It's about the government turning on Transformers. It's about King Arthur. It's about World War II in secret societies. It's a romance for Mark Wahlberg's character. It's about Cybertron coming to Earth. And those are just the ones I came up with off the top of my head right now. The only thing there's more of in this movie than plot lines is aspect ratios. Michael Bay shot like every single shot in this movie with a totally different aspect ratio. So as you're watching the movie, the screen will keep changing size in the middle of it between every cut in the scene. It's unbelievably distracting. With all that said, there's a weird charm to the middle act of this film with Anthony Hopkins and Cogsworth and all this backstory, a little bit of romance going on. I actually kind of dig it. And the movie on the whole is just so bonkers and has so many things going on that it's actually kind of enduring. It loops back around from the bad into a little bit of good at certain points in time. Kicking off the top three is Transformers: Dark of the Moon. This is another movie that has a pretty interesting concept about it, how they show some of the history with the moon landings. There's some interesting ideas inside of that. We also get some ideas about the politics inside of the Transformers and the Autobots and their different strategies to try and keep their species alive in all of this. It's also a lot of fun to hear Leonard Nimoy as a character in this movie. There's a whole bunch of nods back to the Star Trek movie inside of his dialogue, and just bringing him into the film brings a certain gravitas to the role. And for me, the third act of this movie, the Battle of Chicago, is probably the best of the grand scale epic battles inside of this franchise. There's some very cool stuff inside of that sequence, especially when the building's collapsing and they're sliding down it. There's some classic Michael Bay epicness in spectacle in the explosions with the fireworks shooting out them going on in the third act of this movie. But like most of these movies, it's way too long. We spend way too much time at Sam's job and with his new girlfriend. None of it's particularly interesting. It doesn't need to be there. It's not really establishing a character arc. It's just setups for stupid Michael Bay jokes. The only part of the human character stuff that's interesting is the Patrick Dempsey stuff because it has a nice mythology to it and a history that I enjoyed. While the movie's all a bit too much, it absolutely delivers some great Transformers action. Real quick before I give you my top two, remember to share your ranking down below in the comment section. Also comment on each other's rankings. Let's get some nice lively discussions going on, but be kind to each other. You can disagree, just do it without being jerks to each other. Also, if you enjoy talking movies way too much and like rankings just like this one, consider clicking that subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Our runner-up is Transformers. This is easily the best of the Michael Bay films because it's still fairly character focused. The first act of the film is very much a boy and his dog story where Sam meets Bumblebee, and there's a reason for all of it. There's a backstory that ties back to Sam and his family. There's a logic, a storyline, a plot that leads to actual character arcs for these characters. While Shia LaBeouf has kind of had an odd public image over the last 10 years, he's actually a ton of fun in these movies. This one in particular, his relationship with his parents is so weird, awkward, that it delivers some actual laughs in this film. While this movie has the Michael Bay jokes in it, I think they land a lot better in this film. They still feel a little bit fresh. They're better written. They're set up in a more interesting fashion. And because you like the characters more in this film, the jokes work better. While the movie takes a little while to introduce all of our Transformers and to get to the actual action of it, once it goes into that third act, it goes full Michael Bay sliders up to 11. But what this movie does does best is it shows you what Michael Bay can do when he doesn't fully indulge his Michael Bayisms. But easily coming in first place is Bumblebee. What they wisely did with this film is they went back to some classic storytelling in a classic story template that has been used by E.T., it's been used by Iron Giant, and it's done very well here. At the core of this story is a girl that's struggling with her past that forms this relationship with Bumblebee, and you actually care about each of them as characters. They need each other and they go on a journey together, and so when the action does break out, you actually care about what's happening. It's not so overblown, and there's not so many plot lines and characters that you don't know what's going on. This is a very focused film with a clear storyline where you can follow what's happening, and you know the Decepticons' motives, what they're trying to accomplish, you know what Bumblebee's trying to do, and you know what Charlie, the Haley Steinfeld character, is trying to do in each sequence. So it's all real storytelling with actual emotional resonance that leads to payoffs that you actually feel at the end of the movie. And while this might be the smallest scale film in the entire franchise, because you understand motivations, because you care about the story, and because you care about these characters, it absolutely packs the most punch once you get to that third act. So this for me is easily the best of the Transformers films. If you enjoyed this video, remember to click that subscribe button to get more videos just like it. Also, check out that playlist right over there with some of my other rankings of some of the most popular franchises going today. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.